Hi, I'm Melissa Bill, and welcome to the Business Roundup, where we catch up with the movers and shakers in the business world. Today, joining me is David Hernandez, who's the Managing Director of U.S. Operations of Alicosoft. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Melissa.
So, I like to kind of get everybody, like all the guests, to kind of give a little bit of background on their background and the company, the services. Would you mind starting off with that?
Sure. So my background is a mixture. It's a little bit of sales, marketing. I started my journey in sales, and then moved into leadership roles that have kind of led me now to this role, which is running its kind of North American region for Alicosoft, which is we're a global software provider, primarily in the built environment. So think construction engineering. That's kind of our wheelhouse. And then our core offering in the U.S. is planning and scheduling software for construction, whether it's heavy civil or vertical construction. Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. So it started off in the U.S. in Houston, or where was it based out of?
Yeah. So we launched the U.S. based business, and we had a presence in 2015, as far back as 2015, for with resellers, but it was always managed from the UK, which is the corporate headquarters is out of London. And then we launched the US subsidiary in 2021. The corporate office is based here in Houston, Texas.
Okay. And now Alicosoft has just begun a kind of a global expansion, right, as far as their operations. Can you discuss a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the parent company Alico, which is our who we report up to, they are we have several regions across the globe. In the United States, obviously, obviously it's an important market for growth and that kind of stuff. It's been a lot of the focus lately has been how do we go to market in the U.S. and North America as well. So we, you know, I was hired in July of 22. I joined to, like, basically launch sorry, messed up, to launch the business here. So when I joined, it was me and one other young lady, and we've expanded now our team, which then we have to expand our offering. So it's been quite the journey in trying to expand this in the US.
And now, what are some of the services that you really kind of focus on? I know, the industry is definitely changing and evolving. What are some of the services and things that you address?
So our like I said, our primary product is planning and scheduling, and so the construction industry deals with a lot of challenges, not by any fault of their own. It's just a complex industry. So when you have complex projects, a bunch of different individuals working on it, how do you bring them all together and work well, but also make sure everybody has visibility and communication, and everybody's working on this from the same point of view. And that's where I think our offering really helps. It allows the collaboration amongst project delivery teams, not only in the field, but also in the office. And ultimately, though, we want to help the industry with their processes, because you can have software all day long. Software is a tool to help, but if you don't have the people or the process in place, the technology piece kind of falls by the wayside. So our team, one of the things that I work on my team to make sure that we're hiring industry experts, but also our training and our process is about how can we help the industry make sure that we identify any issues that they have. How do we give them some guidance on how to correct those? And our software design is built for the industry, so it will help continue to improve those processes. So it's ultimately around helping the industry be more efficient, which then helps create it be more safe, and then ultimately better project delivery for everybody.
Yeah, you mentioned a good point because a lot of times you get people they're trying to have digital or technology and trying to like do like digital adoption, but if they don't know how to properly like execute it and use it, it can be very frustrating.
Yes, yeah, and it's people think it's a simple process, and maybe if as your business is scaling in the construction industry, maybe it's not as complex. But when you start dealing with multiple regional offices and multiple project teams and multiple projects and different types of projects, then you have, from an executive perspective, I might want something different, but my project delivery team needs something different. So how do you kind of manage all those expectations? There's a saying that I've heard And unspoken expectations lead to those resentments. And so if you don't lay that out early or have a way to kind of bring those together, then it's never fun. And then you just ultimately you just not delivering, you have project failure, you have frustration. So it creates a lot of problems in an organization.
That kind of leads me to the other question. Can you discuss maybe some of the primary challenges of starting a new subsidiary in like a different country?
Yeah, so, I didn't really get too elaborate in my background. So I worked for large corporate companies. And my role prior to this, I was head of sales for a small startup. And in the startup world, you deal with, venture capitalists, and right, it's always you're trying to get funding and grow. And but that journey for me was really fun because I got to come in and just build from scratch. And there was nothing there, no sales process. And so worked really closely with the CEO, which actually helped prepare me for this role because I moved from being head of sales to then managing full P&L. But the difference was I have a backing of an existing company out of the UK. So it's still startup like environment where you're building processes and things from scratch, but at least you have some legacy to kind of lean on and ask some questions. But there's some differences when you talk about US to UK or Europe or other markets, like how to scale. So it's been interesting. So we started from scratch, and you just have to sell the vision. And so there's been a lot of that journey now from almost three, it's over 3 years now.
Yeah, and I know now, how do you balance like the task of creating your own unique identity here, but still kind of adhering to the standards of the parent company?
Yeah. So I think one of the parts of wisdom that was shown, I think, from the leadership, especially from my CEO, the board, and from London, was they tried to manage. Originally, they were managing it from the UK. They would hire a head of sales in the US, and they would kind of manage, but that was a challenge. So they said, okay, we need US leadership because there's so many different things that are complex here that they don't deal with. I mean, I'm in Texas, but you basically have 50 different states, you have 50 different state tax laws, you've got regulations, you've got all these other things. Labor laws are different, culturally things are different. The way that people buy, they want to buy from a US based business. And so like there's just so many things you have to balance. And so that, I think, for them bringing in somebody that understood the market was probably a really good move on their side. And then, but also I have to make sure I'm constantly communicating, the strategy and vision. And sometimes if they don't maybe see it clearly, or if they think, okay, well, we don't do that over here, I have to kind of make sure that I'm giving them why we're doing things. So I always make sure I share the why. But there are some things that are just different, and so that's been a little bit of a challenge, but like I said, they're very open minded once I kind of give them everything they need to trust that we're doing a good job. So
Right, and kinda let you help them, like, shape it, what it's gonna be.
yeah, yeah,
And now how difficult it is to know, that you might not be, when you have, like, it's trying to make a company, like, successful, like, not knowing, like, how I don't know, how things are gonna shape out. Like, what are some of the challenges you have in that area when you're trying to, navigate things?
yeah. So and so I'm a father of 7 boys. It's interesting. And so, and we've actually had this conversation with one of my older sons not too long ago because we were talking about kind of business, and he's getting into a role where similar, where he's starting up something new for a company. And I just shared with them, I said, there's a chance that you get in there and build this, but you're not the person that finishes it. And he didn't really understand what I was saying. I said, there are chapters and seasons in people's lives where you come in and you might be the person that plants the harvest, but you're not the one that's going to necessarily reap the harvest. Doesn't mean that there's not some reward for you along the way, but like it's very rare that you come in and start something from scratch, build it to this big thing, and you're the one that kind of sees it through. Seasons happen. So that's something that I've had to learn over my career, that sometimes like what I think's going to happen may not happen. So I've just kind of learned to kind of adopt the kind of control what I can control mindset. All I can do is make sure that I show up. I'm being a good leader for my team. I'm putting people in the positions that they need, but then at the end of the day, accept that the as long as I'm doing my best, the path is what's going to be. Yeah, and hopefully, hopefully tomorrow I'm still here, and that's the idea. But again, like I said, seasons happen, so you just have to be prepared for that.
Right, and be adaptable. And while
Yes,
EcoSoft is, US is a separate entity, what kind of support does the parent company provide?
quite a bit. I mean, obviously, I've weekly, or more if needed, contact with my boss. Our development teams and stuff sit in the UK. So even though the product's here, we have a very much a heavy user driven roadmap. So we want to lean on our innovative customers who are looking for functionality. So we'll pull in some of the UK team to kind of help have conversations with those customers. But ultimately, it's it's as needed. They're not forcing themselves on us. We're here running our business, but they're there to support as needed. So, but yeah, again, it's time difference is a little challenging as well. Like they're usually done by lunchtime for us. So, so we have to make sure we're managing support and other stuff here.
To kind of, yeah, to adjust for that time. And have you ever experienced any times when you thought this isn't going to work? So how would you overcome that feeling for people who, because like when you're shaping something like from the ground up, I'm sure that happens.
Yeah, I I think in this type of environment, you have to have very much an entrepreneurial mindset. And it's a little different because it's not I'm not necessarily that I don't own it per se. Like I'm not an owner like a normal entrepreneur, but I do feel like I own it. So first and foremost, I want to make sure that I come in with the mindset of I'm going to put everything in. But there are times when it's a lot because as you grow, you wear a lot of hats. The resources aren't necessarily there yet as you start to build cash flow. So you've got to be able to pivot. And I always talk about to the team, but fail quickly. Like identify, like don't just sit here and pause. Let's identify a process. Let's move forward. If it doesn't work, we pivot and we correct. So you have to make sure that you're ready for that. But there are days when you're kind of like, okay, why why are we doing this again? But then you just get back to the core kind of message of what we're trying to do is help the industry. So that's kind of what brings me back and kind of grounds me. Like it's an industry I love, the construction industry. So I'm like, okay, this is what it's about. So all the other little noise that happens during the day, it's tough. But then you say, okay, you know what? Tomorrow's a new day. We get after it again. So
And I know we were talking a little bit about it before, but the construction industry is definitely changing. What are some of the things, like, if you had to say that you kind of see happening and what's going to continue to happen in the future?
so the biggest thing I think right now in the industry, I think you mentioned we talked a little bit about just everybody's on this data transformation journey, and but there's just kind of a little bit of kind of technology fatigue. Like there's so many options out there. So there's this like, how do we navigate? Who do we pick? Why? And but then you also have companies who are already adopted a bunch of different softwares that they don't connect. So you have a little bit of chaos within the companies. What we have to do is make sure, and what I did a presentation a few months back talking about as a software company, we've got to make sure we're playing nice with other software companies. Like it's our responsibility to help our customers integrate their products. Sometimes it might even be a competitive product or something that has a competitive offering like ours, but if we're truly out here trying to help customers, it's a business, we want to make money, we're wrong, but at the same time, our mission is to help our customers. We've got to make sure that we're helping them on this data transformation because everybody wants to get to AI, which it's a little bit down the road, I think, for a lot, especially in construction, because another problem they deal with is standardization across projects, even just language. You and I could work in the same office, two different projects, and maybe our terminology might be a little different, or the way that we set up and run the projects are different. So there's no standardization, and I won't say no. There's limited standardization, and that's something that companies are working on, but it is a challenge. So you've got disconnected data. You have a lot of technologies out there. We talked about process. Sometimes process is a problem. And then just standardization, like just those four, there's several more. And so like, it's hard to stop, this when you're super busy in business, it's hard to stop and say, okay, we got to fix all this because you got to keep working to make money. So I think it's our responsibility as vendors to make sure that we're providing the right type of support, that implementation of our products and offerings don't disrupt their business too much. We work, I said, look, we work nice with other people, and we help them on that standardization journey as well. So
Yeah, that's gonna be important, and that's gonna continue, and, like, with the employees too, I mean, sometimes do you help, like, support the employees within the organizations or give them ways to support them?
absolutely. So I mean, obviously now everything's done so many things can be done virtually. So we obviously have, we do support virtually, but we can provide in person. We send some consultants as if needed. Our network of people that we built outside of our business, we try to connect them with other construction consultants as well if needed. So yeah, always trying to make sure we're allowing help any way we can.
Right, and now if people wanted more information on the company, what would be the best way to find it?
Yeah, so a couple ways. Go to the website, which is elecosoft.com. It's ELECOSOFT.com. And then LinkedIn as well. Myself or the company, we both have pages. So they provide quite a bit of information.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I would definitely really appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Yeah. Appreciate you having me. So,
Thank you for joining the Business Roundup, where we always try to bring you interviews with some of the leading people in business, whether it be technology, finance, or energy. I hope you tune in. I hope you subscribe and listen, and we'll give you updates for new interviews that are coming up. Until next time, I'm Melissa Bell.